I was a skinny kid beyond skinny kid. I wrestled 98 pounds as a freshman and sophomore in high school, which, by the way, my 9-year-old son is 130 pounds already. So
Damn.
I was a skinny kid. I was 106 as a junior, 115 as a senior.
And was it just like so much activity and not enough eating and no focus on eating, or what was the main?
And of interest, delayed onset puberty as a result of inadequate sleep. I was working a swing shift till midnight, getting home at 1 or later in the morning, waking up at 6:30 or so a.m. I was eating crap food I was working at 7-Eleven. And so it was the nacho pump cheese and the, the fountain sodas. And it was just, hot dogs, if that. So I had a horrendous diet, didn't eat enough, was very active. I suffered from a lot of episodes of hypoglycemia throughout that period. I remember getting dizzy spells quite often. I was so active, obviously in wrestling and the like, and just not eating enough food, not sleeping enough. And I thought, there was something wrong with me, of course, at the time. And now we just understand what that is. Going hypo is not all that uncommon with inadequate calories or carbohydrates for active individuals. And at the time, I didn't know. It was just delayed onset puberty as a result of not having enough sleep or calories. And so I speak a lot about that to kids. I worked with a lot of high school, collegiate, and professional athletes over the years. And, I'm not a big fan of the weight cutting for wrestling for those very reasons. I think you can delay, if not completely inhibit growth at that age. And it's something that I'm very cautious about. And with women, too, in terms of the female triad, the cessation of the menstrual period and the anemia and hypothyroidism and all those things that they realized, and which I started to see more of and more of as I started to train female bodybuilder, figure, physique, bikini competitors. But I finally got to my senior year. I went out to Pennsylvania and lived with my uncle, and he owned a farm. And so we had whole milk from the dairy farm next door. We would go get the kind where you had to shake it up because there was 4 inches of cream on top, and we would eat steak and bacon, just a lot more food. And so I finally went through a small growth phase at that time, just from having enough food and sleeping well and still working hard on the farm. But I'd only managed to get up to about 135 pounds as an 18-year-old freshman in college. And so I was still quite small.
Question about that period of time. Like, obviously it is the period where the highest velocity of maturation occurs, and having sufficient nutrients to support that growth for height, bone infrastructure, muscle, etc., all, critical. But what I think a lot of people don't think about is that something that, let's just say you didn't take it seriously enough in adolescence, can you make up for that in adulthood, or do you lose some permanent growth potential if you're not like relatively dialed through that period?
I think it's really individualistic. I think you can continue to grow, and some evidence of that will come as I continue on this story, this chronology. 140-pound freshman in college, 18 years old, 135, right in there. Started lifting weights. I wanted to be a pro bodybuilder, of all things. We were in the gym with all the guys from the fraternity, and 135 was on the bar to warm up. Of course, always, just one plate on each side. Everybody went through and they knocked out their reps, and of course I got under it. I couldn't do a single rep at 135. Here I am as a freshman in college, and I still remember having to take the 35 or the 45s off, putting the 35s on just so I could get a rep or two.
Traumatic experience.
Yes, as you can see, I'm still troubled about it. 10 years later, I was benching nearly 600, but we'll get there. And, I saw the magazines, and back then it was, a lot of the amateurs, because there was only, I think, 2 pro cards a year. Well, one at the Nationals for the overall champion, or one at the USA's for the overall champion, and one for each weight class at Nationals, which I think there was only 4 or 5 weight classes. Heavyweight was everything over 198. And so you had this huge group of top national guys training out of Gold's Venice, and that were not pros yet. But by the time they won a pro card, they were placing top 5 in the Olympia that year or the year after. But those are the magazines, and I wanted to be a pro bodybuilder, 135-pound, 18-year-old. And so I got Arnold Schwarzenegger's Encyclopedia Bodybuilding. I enrolled into a weightlifting course at the University of Oregon, of course, with my other things that I was interested in at the time. And I started eating the same diet as the guy behind the counter at the Gold's Gym who was competing in a show. So that was tuna fish and rice cakes, right? That was all my knowledge at the time. We just didn't have the the benefit of all the information that's available today, of course. And so, and then I would go into the science library and I would start scrolling through microfiche, which your young audience might not recognize, but it's somewhat akin to your grandfather's 8-track tape player in his old pickup truck. And they would sit there and scroll through microfiche to read research to see what was relevant to me as a bodybuilder in terms of nutrition or supplementation at the time. After 2 years of training, I was only 154 pounds in my first bodybuilding show in 1988. And I'm talking about lifting, every single day, 6 days a week, probably overtraining and undereating until I came across a local gym owner, competitor and promoter of shows. And he said, you got to flip the script. You're training too much and eating too little. So he told me, you're not allowed to go to the gym, but for every other day instead of every day.
Right.
And you got to dramatically increase your calories.